How to find a wife. There comes a time in a man's life where he wants to settle down and find a wife. God created man to have a companion, and that's why he created Eve for Adam. So it's natural to desire to find a mate to spend the rest of your life with. But what can help you to find the right woman in your life? In today's Bible advice, we will discuss some ways through the Bible that can help you find a mate. Even though the advice are mainly Bible based, they can still be used by individuals who believe in the Bible or not. So what's the first thing you should know when thinking about finding a mate? Believe it or not, a lot doesn't have to do with your mate as much as it has to do with you. First, you must know yourself. Now, what do I mean by know yourself? Well, before you invest time in dating and finding someone, a good thing to know is what you are looking for. That will save you a lot of time. For example, let's say you're buying a car. One approach you can use is just to go to any random car lot and test drive every car you see. Or another approach is to know exactly what type of car you're looking for, then choose the one that properly fits your description. It's very similar with finding a wife. Rather than just dating women after women, find out what you really want and what you're looking for in a wife. And nothing wrong with having preferences, tall women, short women, light, dark. Just know what you're looking for. And it's not all about her exterior. Know what type of personality and traits you're looking for. In Genesis 2:18, God said it's not good for man to continue to be alone. So he made a helper for him, Eve. Eve was supposed to complement Adam. So similarly, your wife should complement your strengths and assist your weaknesses. And every individual is different, but you have to decide for yourself what type of complement you want. For example, let's say you love sports, which most men do. You may want a girl that enjoys watching basketball, but not necessarily one that enjoys playing basketball. And it could be vice versa. Many times it will be someone you have things in common with, but it doesn't always have to be. Just because you aren't a musician doesn't mean you can't enjoy being with someone who's into musical instruments. So know exactly what type of person you are. What gets you happy? What makes you cry? What makes you happily cry? And think of someone who fit your lifestyle to complement you. If pet peeves drive you nuts, then don't get with someone that has one you don't like. I know some women, during the springtime, they do this weird noise with their throat because of their allergies. It sounds like this. Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you know how much that confuses the brain when you see an attractive girl, but you hear a dying frog? So yeah, no pet peeves unless you are able to handle it. And think of someone also with similar interests as you. For example, me personally, I like being active and doing things outdoors. So an outdoorsy type person is definitely a must for me. And you can't be a couch potato watching Netflix all day. Not that there's anything wrong with that, of course. A good idea is to write down things you enjoy doing or participating in and put them in order from your favorite to your least favorite. Now, when you are choosing someone, make sure they have at least something in your top 3 of your list. Now, if you can't even find a list of things to write down, now you got a whole different problem, which is you need to get a life. Seriously. I mean, you can't be looking for someone who matches your criteria when you have no criteria to go by yourself. So be honest with yourself. If you don't have a life, get one. Find hobbies. Do something you enjoy. And I'm not talking about work. Some people do enjoy going to work, and I applaud you people. But most people, including me, dread waking up and going to work. Unless you have a fun job like a food tester or something. So if your work is your life, then it's going to be difficult for you to not only find a mate, but to keep one. So get a life. Okay, so once you figure out what type of person you are, now it's time to find the wife that is right for you. Okay, so what is the number one thing to look for when you are finding a wife? I'll give you a second to think of the answer. Okay, you got it? Now, if you said looks, then you are absolutely wrong. That's right, you're wrong. Looks are important, but it's not the number one thing to look for. Now, I'm going to say what that is, but let's see if you can guess. I'll give you a minute. Are you ready? The number one thing to look for in a wife is if she is God-fearing. That's right, a God-fearing woman. Now, if you got the right answer, post it in the comments below. But yeah, she has to be God-fearing. Why? Well, first off, when I say God-fearing, we're not talking about a woman that's afraid of God like he's a dictator, like he's Donald Duck. But we are referring to a woman who has a fear of displeasing God. Someone who wants to do the right thing, not because of you, but because of God. That is the most important trait to look for. Why? Because that's the only way the marriage will last. Think about Eve in the Garden of Eden. She didn't fear God and ate the fruit, which ruined her relationship with God. And Adam was upset after they got kicked out the garden. So if you find a woman that wants to please God, then when times get rough in the marriage, which it will, her first thought isn't to leave or divorce. In fact, it's not even her last thought. It's not a thought at all. As a God-fearing woman, she knows how God feels about divorce, and she will try her best to work it out. So if you want a successful marriage, she has to be God-fearing. And the same goes for you as well. Okay, so that's number one. So what's next to look for? Well, what about looks? Well, first of all, after number one, there really isn't any numerical order, because God's fearing is one. Everything else comes second. But let's talk about looks since y'all brought up the subject. Now, unfortunately, as men, we are created to be attracted to a woman based on her looks. I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's wrong. All I'm saying is that's just the way it is. So yes, looks are important, but it's not everything. Ultimately, beauty is subjective. Someone who you may find attractive, another man may not find attractive. Or sometimes you may not find a woman initially attractive, but then after you get to know her, you find her more attractive. So looks are completely subjective. But if you're only attracted to a woman because of the way she looks, that is not marriage material. If all she got is looks, then treat her like drugs. Just say no. Marrying a woman only because of her looks is like buying the best looking shoes that are 3 sizes too small. Sure, it looks good on the outside, but it's extremely uncomfortable and all you can think about is taking it off. That's what it's like marrying a woman that have nothing going for her except her looks. Do the opposite of Nike. Don't do it. In part 2 of my video next week, I'm going to further explain why you shouldn't marry a woman only because she's beautiful. Thank you for taking the time to listen to Bible advice, and I will have more advice next week. If you have any comments or questions or any advice you would like me to try to give you, please post in the comments below. So please like and subscribe, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. God bless.